everybody, and welcome to our DMAC Career Discovery event. We are excited to have a licensed board certified behavioral analyst with us today for our Ask a Professional session. Our hope is that these events are linking your education and your career interests with professionals that work in those areas. But before I introduce our professional today, I would just like to say hello. My name is Jill Hoyk, and I have Amy Stainhook with me today, and we are both a part of the work-based learning team here at DMAC. And so if you guys have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to leave them in the chat or kindly unmute yourself. But with that, I would love to introduce our professional. We have Jessica Crawford here with us today. She is a part of Balance Autism. But when I say her title, it's very official and very, very long. But she is a licensed board certified behavioral analyst. But with Balance Autism, she is the Adult Community Services Program Director. So I will kind of kick it off with the first question, Jessica. I know I kind of gave a little bit of a background about you, but if you could just kind of talk a little bit about your backstory of how you got into this career field and what kind of got you interested in it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. So really, I would say what got me interested goes all the way back to when I was in high school a really long time ago, where I did some peer mentoring in a special education classroom. So I got to help kids, whether it be with homework assignments or going and selling popcorn at lunch or fundraising. I was able to do those activities, and that's really what got me interested in wanting to support other people and teaching them new skills. So that kind of led to my undergrad career. I originally started off going the speech pathology route and found that wasn't exactly what my niche was. So went into the psychology field and I think I found out about behavior analysis maybe my second semester of my junior year, which caused a little scrambling of, okay, well, this is where we're going to apply for graduate school and such, because it does require a graduate degree. So studied that, started my graduate program, and eventually moved over to Iowa from Indiana, and found what was we previously were the homestead, found the homestead, found someone to supervise me, because at the time there was only, I believe, 12 behavior analysts in the entire state. And right now we have well over 100 at this point. So started getting my supervision and working direct care with children with autism, and then became a clinic supervisor once I was able to pass my board certification exam, get all of my supervision hours. And then after several years of doing that, had a new opportunity present itself to work with our adult services department. So that's kind of how I got into the role that I am now.
Awesome. So you said that your undergrad is in psychology. Is that correct?
So it is, I have two technical majors. So one is speech pathology and one is psychology.
Okay. And then your master's degree, what is the specific title of that?
It is in applied behavior analysis, so a Master of Arts.
Okay. Yeah. I think, when we're talking to students about these career pathways, there is just so many avenues, and I think, like you just said, just trying to find your niche. And I think by doing that, it's really just trying out things and working and experiencing different types of things. So awesome. What would you say in your career this far, what would you say is maybe like a biggest win for you?
That working with people, that's a very hard question, because I would say, you get to celebrate your own personal success as you graduate and complete new things. And to have been with an organization that's what we're in the business of doing. So for the past 8 years, I've got to see kids have wins, adults have wins. I would have to say, for me, it really breaks down into two different things: is working with a child that previously was nonverbal, had no verbal communication, and seeing a kid get to say their first word or their first request to their parents, or even saying "I love you" for the first time, is a huge win. But also seeing that happen with adults as well, is that maybe they're getting stronger in their communication skills, or someone that has had, a really difficult past, maybe they get a shot at employment somewhere So I would say those are some of the wins that I've gotten to see along my path, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that is great. Things that often you and I take for granted, right? Like
Hmm.
those are the biggest wins. So when you talk about behavioral analysts, this is just kind of like a question that I've been thinking about. When I think of that, I think of you are the person that kind of comes in and kind of looks at the child or adult to see what type of behaviorals that they're showing. Can you talk a little bit about when you do like a behavioral analysis on somebody, kind of what that entails? And I'm sure that there's so many components to that, but just kind of an overview briefly about kind of an in-depth look of what that is exactly.
Absolutely. So depending upon who you're working with, really when we think of the science of behavior analysis, we're really looking at the big whole of we're looking at teaching people socially significant behaviors that are going to impact their life. Sometimes that means we're teaching them new things to replace possible challenging behavior, or maybe it's just building on the current skill set that they have or filling in some of those gaps. So for every person, it's going to be really different. And that is why anyone that comes into our services, we do conduct developmental and age appropriate assessments for them to determine, hey, this is where you have a really strong skill set at. How can we build upon it? These are some areas that are weaker. How do we set up goals for you to work on that? And what goals do you want to work on? So that's really, we're going to be looking at assessment to say, hey, this is the direction we should go. And then I don't know if that hit on everything that you did ask, but feel free to hop in and ask more.
Yeah, so can you just give an example of one,
Mhm.
like if a child or an adult has this trouble, what are some things that you do to help them, move past that? Can you just give like an example of one that's pretty common that you see, and then maybe like an activity that you do to help with that?
Absolutely. So I would say probably to give examples in both youth services and adult services is with autism, we are going to see that in order to get that diagnosis, you're going to have, there will be a communication deficit present, which means that you may be struggling somewhere with whether it's communicating with a coworker, expressing your wants and needs to support staff or to a family member. Um, we're going to develop a goal around that to improve that communication. So maybe it's, I need to get better about having conversations with my roommate because this is something is maybe bothering me, or maybe I want them to start joining me on activities. So we'll build in structured time to focus just on communicating and having support staff there to facilitate. Hey, did you want to come with me to karaoke tonight? And teaching them to communicate those kinds of things. So those are the amount of skills we can teach is really, it's endless, because like we said earlier today, is it's really across the lifespan. So how we have conversations is going to definitely change across the lifespan. But I think to even relate it to children is maybe that they don't know how to yet request for certain preferred things such as a certain toy. So we might work with them with a picture exchange communication system. So it's kind of a booklet that is, if they don't have the ability to vocalize that, we might teach them that system so that they can learn we can motivate them and teach them how to request those specific items to build their communication.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you say are, if you were talking to a student, that was thinking about going down this career path, young in their career, what would you say is must-have personality traits for somebody that is wanting to go into this career field?
I would say two really big skills are you that you will want to possess is um, it's not always just about the technical skills. It's those soft skills of being empathetic, because this field, it can be emotional. You're working with people. So I think that's an important piece. And we talk about positive and teaching. There are going to be really difficult times in this field that you're going to need to have the skill of resiliency because you may be faced with some really difficult challenges in supporting people and how to best support them. So I think empathy. Being outgoing is definitely helpful, but that's not to say that I've worked with people that are really quiet and do a really good job, but communication is also going to be a very big skill that you're going to need in supporting people.
Yes, Amy and I, we were on a call with our instructors and professors of our DMAC pathways, and they refer to this career pathway that you guys are real life superheroes. And I just thought that that was really awesome, the way that they put that. And so that is just one way of kind of describing it on our end, is that you guys really make the little things in life big things. So that's great. And our next question is, you're probably going to laugh and be like, oh, there really isn't a typical day, but could you walk me through a day in the life of kind of what you do when you get to work, and kind of run through that? And I know probably in your profession, every day is different. You're working with new people all the time. And so just kind of walk me through what your typical day is like.
Oh, that's a hard one because it changes every day. So for me personally, my caseload entails really everyone that is in our adult services program. So that could mean that maybe one day I am starting at the office meeting with one of my direct reports to talk about an individual's plan where all of their goals are listed, and talking about, hey, what can we do programmatically to teach this skill, to teach that skill. I could be going then and teaching our introduction to autism class, where we have a multiple hour class about autism and characteristics and strategies to help support them. And that would be a couple hours of my day. It could be that I am going out into the community and being in one of the homes to support someone and helping with some programming and support needs. Gosh, what else could it look like? But every day, I think that's the beauty of it, is every single day is different. I could be working on an assessment with someone for a bit of time, but there's nothing that really stands outside of your normal standing meetings for me. Is I could be pretty much anywhere. And I think that is one of the unique things that I really do love, is that not every single day is the same for me. It's something different every day. So it keeps things very invigorating and refreshing.
With that, I mean, do you have a lot of documentation that you have to provide or do for each or each client? I mean, are you having to do quite a bit of paperwork every day, or is that not necessarily one of your job duties?
I think it's a yes and a no. So our direct support staff, it is their responsibility that every shift they are working with someone, that there is documentation that corresponds with that shift. So what goals did you work on? How did it go? We are the coordinators that I oversee will be documenting, this is their plans, this is what the data is looking like, and they're going to analyze it and feed that report up to me. So I will see documentation, I will see reports, and I would say mine involves a lot more of data analytics, of really zooming out and looking at everything as a whole. But on different levels of our company, there might be more paperwork, I would say probably on the coordination end, because they're getting, legal paperwork. They're the ones sitting in plan meetings to say, hey, this is what this person wants their goal to be. That's probably where I see a lot more of the paperwork end of things. Not to say that I don't do it, because there's definitely other situations where that is one of my responsibilities, is to be behind the desk and doing some of that paperwork as well.
Great. What would you say is the toughest part of your job, or maybe some challenges that you face in your day-to-day?
I would say probably the most, I would say challenging wise, I think, is we obviously are in the autism service field, and knowing that sometimes with autism, there does come instances where there might be some challenging behavior and someone isn't able to effectively communicate verbally with us what's going on, and they may default to that. And I think supporting people through that and helping others understand that can sometimes be a challenge, that it's not necessarily personal when something like that happens. So I think challenging behavior is probably one of the challenges that we deal with, and how the perception of it sometimes, I think, is difficult for some people to grasp their mind around.
Absolutely. Um, And then you kind of probably touched on this with one of your biggest wins, but what do you find the most enjoyable?
The people.
Yeah.
I would say it absolutely would be the people. I know for me, there's a couple, I actually live in Altoona myself, and we have 6 different homes in the area. So even if I've had maybe not the greatest day at the office, if I get to go pop into one of those homes and just see how the 4 people are doing that are living there and just spending some time with them, whether it be catching up or playing a game or watching some TV, I would say that's probably the biggest thing. And that's what keeps me is the people. I would also have to say my team. I have a really great team that is very supportive, that also makes those more challenging days a lot easier. But I would say the people we serve is definitely top of my list.
Awesome. That's great. All right. My final question. What advice would you give students to kind of prepare for a career in this pathway? Like, you can even kind of go into detail about maybe some classes you find that maybe would be helpful. I know maybe you're kind of out of the high school realm, but like, can you think back to your high school years and like, oh, I should have taken more of that, or in college, any classes that you think you can hone in on, and then just outside of education, what they could be dabbling in to kind of get some more experience?
Absolutely. If I'm thinking back to high school, I think you're required to take sociology and psychology. It was when I was in high school. I think those are really good classes. Getting to the collegiate level, I think I know that when I was at Indiana University in my undergrad, there was a really great class we had where it was literally a class on careers in psychology. So here's all the different routes that you could go, and this is what this job entails, that I found really helpful. But I think it's important to explore communications, explore sociology. I remember taking even a medical sociology class just because I was like, well, that sounds interesting. I really don't, I don't know if this will help me in my career or not, but it does give more. If you're interested in people, go for the classes that are targeted towards really people. Human services would be a good one. A social work class to determine if that's a good fit for you or not. I think any of those classes are really going to lead you in the direction of knowing this field might be for me.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think you mentioned in our previous session too, there's so many different ways to get involved, like in high school. I know a couple of my friends, they on their study hall, they volunteered their time in the special education room during their study hall hour, or they would pop in there during lunch to see if they could help anything. Some of my teacher friends did that with a teacher. So there's ways too that I think students can start to kind of get involved in this to see if they like it too as well too. So
absolutely. And
yeah.
I think that reminds me, I did in high school and college, Best Buddies was also a really great organization that I did all through college and got to experience that. And I think that was a really good eye opener for, yes, these are the people that I want to spend my career working with.
Yes. Awesome. Well, we will wrap up this DMACC Career Discovery event. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining us today to learn a little bit more about the ins and outs of being a behavioral analyst. So thank you all for attending, and thank you, Jessica, for your time today.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.